Hi, hello again, and welcome to Portal Season 2024. This is going to be episode number 10, and we got a lot to talk about today. My name is Jay Tate. I'm publisher / Commodore at auburnsports.com, which I think is a great website. Of course, I own it and I run it, but that's just my opinion. I would love it if you were a member there. Honestly, it would be really, really happy for me. A happy, happy time. Anyway, Auburn's been very busy in the portal again. We've been doing this every single day, and if you want to know my opinion, Auburn is absolutely killing it. Today they added 2, including Horatio Fields, the fine wide receiver from Wake Forest who signed in the 20 class and was known back in the day as a guy that dropped passes all the time, but yet he progressed little by little. And this past season he played a bunch for the Demon Deacons and had a 5% drop rate, which is outstanding. Had 2 drops the whole season, so really nice. He became a nice possession receiver for them, and now he's going to be a nice possession receiver for the Auburn Tigers. We'll take a look at what I think is the depth chart at wide receiver in just a few minutes. But Horatio Fields is just a guy that's like solid, gives you a lot of experience. He's going to be a good guy in the locker room because he's a friendly person, and he's going to help people get along, and people need to be motivated. Maybe he can come along and motivate them without them feeling like he's getting in their face. There is value in that. Seriously, chemistry is a big, big part of it. Auburn also signed Xavier Atkins. I did not include him on the beast list, and after watching his high school tape, man, I might have missed the boat on this kid. I was just so shocked to learn how much Auburn wanted this guy. In high school, DJ Durkin, Auburn's defensive coordinator, was at Texas A&M at the time when Xavier played his senior season in Humble, Texas, right? It's just a little bit north of Houston. He's actually from rural Louisiana is where he's really from. But anyway, Durkin comes in contact with this kid during recruiting his senior year, and he's like, this guy's a marauder. And he goes to LSU, and he was just buried on the depth chart. He only played, 31 snaps last season. And so it's hard for me as a college football publisher and analyst. I don't have a lot of tape on that. So I went back and looked at his high school tape, and I'm telling you, this guy's a marauder. He's all over the field. He's got a indefatigable motor. He's just a savage. I mean, he's playing with physicality, violence, and ill intent. And honestly, as I was watching him, because he's not a big guy at all, but he just runs around there and just defames people, he reminded me of Travis Williams, T-Will, who's now the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, and who was an outstanding linebacker at Auburn, maybe 99 to 2003 or 2004, something like that. I'm telling you, that is high praise, too. You don't necessarily see smaller linebackers, or I don't, that just play with such intensity and violence. He has a chance to be a good one. I just wonder a little bit about a kid, decommitted from LSU twice, and then he signed with LSU, and then he left really fast. Like, it just seems like somebody's being kind of wishy-washy, but that doesn't really have anything to do with his football ability or his competitive acumen. So maybe I'm missing the boat on this one, and I will defer to DJ Durkin on that. By the way, with those 2 guys added, I did make an adjustment to Auburn's top needs card there, because by adding Horatio Fields, they have addressed their situation at wideout. Auburn's a little bit thin there, but with Horatio added, they're okay, and I still think Singleton, we'll talk about him in a minute, I still think that he ends up at Auburn. The commit list. These are the guys that have signed with Auburn this portal season. I've added 2 new grades. Obviously, Horatio, I gave him a B-. I was kind of going back and forth thinking about a B because he's a solid player and he's got a lot of snaps under his belt and he doesn't drop the ball. He can win some aerial duels, but the bottom line is he's not super fast, and he's not someone, if there's a superstar cornerback at LSU or Alabama that you've got to beat and you've got to go against and challenge, I don't think it's going to be Horatio Fields. I don't think he has that level of athleticism, and so to me, you got to knock it down a little bit. I ended up giving him a B-. You could make the argument it's a B. He's a solid player. Xavier Atkins, I was going to give him a C, and then I watched that tape and I bumped him up to a C+. You could make an argument for a B- there. I just don't know enough about this kid. I haven't seen him play enough. I've talked to some folks in the complex that are just absolutely fired up about him, but sometimes you can get seduced, I think, a little bit by tape sometimes. And I'm not saying that's what happened here. I'm just somebody who's been doing this so long that I want to see them play and make plays before I get carried away thinking that a kid's going to be a superstar or a stud before he actually does superstar-y or studly things on a varsity football field. That's just the thing. And I'm willing to see scrimmages. That would count for me. If he's a dominating element in a scrimmage, that changes my opinion right there. But I got to see that first. Anyway, that's a nice ad for Auburn, and they're getting they have thoughtfully gone out and addressed their needs, and that's really all you can ask. This is kind of a emerging situation here. TJ Cersi is finishing up his visit at this hour, 5:45 in the Central Time Zone. He may be leaving here in the next hour or so. Caleb is up at the complex, posted up, waiting to talk to TJ as he leaves. But, I have this on Auburn's top needs list there. The Buck situation is still in white, which means it has not been addressed. TJ is definitely somebody that they would be looking at Buck. He can play end. He can play outside linebacker. He's that hybrid, and he fits physically. He fits exactly what DJ Durkin wants and needs at that position. 6'5", 262. Played a lot last season as a backup behind Pyburn, who's an outstanding player. Just a little bit buried at Florida. That's why he's in the portal. And Auburn is taking its time getting to know him, letting him see what their plans are for him. I like him a lot, but here's the thing. So you got TJ as a Buck, and you also got Clev Lubin as a Buck. Now, for me, Clev Lubin's more of a defensive end, and I think of TJ Cersi as more of an outside linebacker. So maybe that's the way, but I don't know that Auburn needs both of these guys. I mean, two's not, you wouldn't turn them away. But if you're looking to add a Buck, and you still got some good Bucks coming up through the system, so you don't need to stack up that position too much. You're just looking for a plug-and-play guy to replace J-Mac. Are they going to have to choose between TJ Cersi and Clev Lubin? Clev Lubin's been at Minnesota. Lately, he's also at Louisville right now. I don't know why he would go to Louisville, but that's a whole other conversation. I like both of these guys, and I wonder if Auburn's going to have to make a decision, or if they're just going to have to kind of feel it out and say, hey, Clev Lubin's going to go to Louisville instead because they're going to offer him $1.2 million or something. Then we'll go with Cersi. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, but there's definitely some negotiations going on in that situation. I mentioned earlier Eric Singleton, who's the outstanding receiver from Georgia Tech. Some of the other recruiting services, and of course I respect those guys 24/7 and On3, good guys that work over there. I think On3 has Eric Singleton as the number 2 player overall in the portal. I think 24/7's got him in that, in the top 5, and we've got him. Rivals has him in the top 5 as well. And guys, I've got him on the 5 spot on our beast list just for Auburn. Behind like Jackson Arnold, who I really like, and Clev Lubin, who I really like, and Poyser, who ended up going to Miami, but I really like him too. I mean, I think Eric Singleton's a really good player. I don't know. Maybe I'm underrating him too. 56 catches for 754 and 3 touchdowns this year. That ain't bad. And he can do some end-around stuff. He's super, super fast, just like Ontario McCaleb. And, I don't know if Ontario, if he were young and the portal was still a thing when he was, if he could go in the portal, in his prime, what kind of interest would he garner? Because I think people would look at him and say, okay, what is he? He's super fast. You're never going to catch him. But, for Ontario, it's like, are you a tailback? Are you a receiver? What are you? Kind of like Malcolm is, Singleton is definitely more of a skilled receiver. I think he's going to end up being a slot, and he can definitely help a lot. But I don't know. I think he's an awesome player. I just don't think he's necessarily like the super-duper dominating dude, Taking a look at Auburn's wideout depth. This is interesting to me. So this is the way I see it. This is not the way that Hugh has told me it's going to be or anything like that. But looking at X, you've got Cam Coleman, who I think is an absolute stud. Sam Turner coming in from high school. I like him a lot from Southwest DeKalb. I like him a lot, but I think physically he's going to need a little bit of time. It's just very, very thin, Eric Smith, haven't seen him play too much from Selma, but I think that's the situation at X. At Z, I'm going to put Horatio as the presumed starter going into fall camp with Perry Thompson right there with him, competing to see what happens there. Now, Horatio can play X, and I just don't know that you're going to need him to play X with Cam, because Cam, I think, this year could handle most of the snaps at X. Next year, he's going to even want more, and he's going to be worth more. He's going to be a more experienced, better player. I think he's going to get a lot of run at X. So for me at Z, it's going to be Horatio, Perry, and then Duke Smith coming in as well. Duke's, I think he'll end up being a Z receiver. Eric Smith he's like 6'6", so he's definitely going to be one of those big possession receiver guys. And then at slot is where it gets interesting. Malcolm Simmons, who I really like, and everybody else does. Sam Jackson, who's a great guy. I don't know how he fits in really. I mean, he played some snaps this year. Bryce Kane, who's going to be a redshirt freshman going into next season. I like him too. Kind of a, Sean Shivers kind of short, compact guy. And if Singleton comes in, you got to believe that he's going to be the starter at slot. With Malcolm Simmons, they're just going to have to kind of devise ways to get him the football. And I think Hugh is committed to doing that. But, there's some interesting situations to be decided at slot specifically. And to see, are they going to add one more receiver to add something at X? Or are they just going to use Horatio to kind of go back and forth? It's interesting. I like where they're headed here. This is more talent than they've had in a while. They're going to miss Dre terribly next season. But I think most of the smart Auburn fans, which is you, by the way, know how good Dre was last season. It's just a lot of people maybe who weren't at Auburn didn't know that. The Beast List, the only change I made was Horatio is now an Auburn Tiger, so I went ahead and added the Auburn logo onto his name, affixed it. And so that's 5 of the 10 that have gone Auburn's way. Only 2 have gone away, which is the 2 Miami kids. You still got Clev Lubin on the board, and you've got Eric Singleton on the board, who I think will be an Auburn Tiger. And then Josh Thompson, I think he'll end up at Ohio State. But he is also a fine player as well. So a couple of things I didn't mention the other day. Walker White is apparently headed. He's actually out at Baylor visiting out there, which took some of my Auburn friends by surprise. They just figured he was going to Arkansas or somewhere. I didn't think that. I don't know. I want Walker to do well, and I think Baylor, that might be a good spot for him. I don't know. It'd be weird to be facing him next year. But, good for Walker White. And also DJ Reed, kind of a developmental defensive end here at Auburn, announced he's going to be going in the portal as well. So another guy we had to add to the scroll. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking out this show in almost 12 minutes. Can you believe it? If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. It's free. It makes me happy, and it gives the channel a lot more exposure and happy times for sure. All right, guys, that's the wrap. See you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep your feet on the ground. Keep reaching for the stars. Peace.